Hey everybody, Sarah Pacaro here. Today's video is a little bit different. It's kind of interesting. I just got back from the doctors and had surgery back actually when I was married to the first narcissist, the one that I put in the covert narcissistic category. I had surgery on both of my ears because of what's called a cholesteatoma. Basically, it's a buildup and it's just almost a deterioration. It's just like an infection that grows and eats everything in your ears and the inner ear. So the nerves, the skin tissue, the bones, it's just this growth that eats and deteriorates kind of like a blob, whatever it comes into contact with. So while I was with a covert narcissist, had surgery in both ears to remove cholesteatoma. My left ear, it was very significant because it went misdiagnosed for about 3 years. I would go to doctors and they would just say, oh, you have an ear infection, and send me off with antibiotics and ear drops. And that continued to occur for about 3 years until the husband said, you need to go see an ENT. So I went to see an ENT and he looked at it and said, wow, you needed surgery years ago. I can't believe that it's even gone on this long. And then about a year later, had the same feeling in my right ear and just went back to the surgeon who performed the surgery in my left ear, and he said, good news, bad news. And he said, good news, you've only got 2 ears. Bad news, you need surgery again. So I had surgery again on my right ear. That was about 10 years ago, like I said. And I started having the same feeling in my right ear again, very recently, over the last couple months. So I just got back from the doctors today. Here's my hearing test. Can't hear. I can, but there's significant hearing loss. And she said it's not due to the nerves. My nerves and both ears are functioning just fine. It's the volume. And what was fascinating to me when she said it's the volume, when I was sitting in that little box today with the things on my head and raising my hand and then pushing the button to indicate that I heard the sound or the tone, that was all well and fine. It was when she said, I'm going to increase the volume of my voice, not to a level that's painful, but to a level that's uncomfortable. And when she did that, when she started speaking and her voice, her volume began to increase, tears just started pouring down my face. And she came in and she said, I know, I'm so sorry. This is so uncomfortable. This room is really small. It had nothing to do with the size of the room. It had everything to do with a memory that was triggered from my childhood and my upbringing. I was a child that every year in elementary school, when they did the hearing test, when they called you to the library or wherever they did the hearing test, I failed. And when I failed, about a month later, whenever it was, I had to be removed from my classroom, taken on a small bus with a couple of other kids, whoever the failures were, and taken to a specialty school where they did intensive hearing tests. And I failed those every year, and it was referred me to a hearing doctor. What I know now about the way that our unconscious mind works and how unhealed emotional trauma manifests itself physically is profound. And I know the tears came because of my upbringing, because of the environment that I was raised in, and the volume at which one of my parents used their voice. They thought that by yelling and increasing their volume, maybe they would get the point across at a certain manner or in a certain way. And so now volume, it was like, as a child, I did not have the ability to protect myself or to keep myself safe or to feel safe. And I see this in so many of my clients, and it happened with me as well. That's part of what led me to this journey. The volume of something significantly impacts and can trigger me. And then I didn't have protection when I was a kid to get away from that noise and that volume and that constant yelling and feeling like I couldn't protect myself. I couldn't keep myself safe. I couldn't keep myself away from that. But that I was always doing something wrong, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how difficult no matter the extent or the amount of effort I put in, I was always getting yelled at, and the volume was really, really loud. It was as if my body said, no worries, girl, I got you. and started to deteriorate my hearing so that I wouldn't have to hear those things. Well, logically, I know I'm not a child anymore and I'm not in that environment anymore, but I'm still receiving the impact of those compound experiences today. Talk about CPTSD, and so still today. I mean, this was my hearing test from this morning, and right when I got out of the booth, right, gonna wipe my face, the doctor said, "Have you ever had a hearing aid?" And I said, "No, I can hear." And she said, "You can, but the volume at which you can hear is so deteriorated and so low. You're so young that if you don't use a hearing aid, what can happen over time is that part of your brain that connects with the ability to hear things and makes those cognitive and neurological connections, the ability to process information and to understand that information, because you're so young, when you're older, because you've missed out on hearing all those things at such a volume, you are at such higher risk to like not be able to remember things, not be able to make connections, not be able to recall things. And that's what I want to talk to you about getting the hearing aid for, so that that doesn't happen. And so may have to have surgery again on my right ear because that feeling is back. And it's no wonder, because of everything I've had to hear in regards to what's going on with the court system, what's going on with the ex-narcissist, my daughter, all of this stuff. It's no wonder that this is occurring again. But the very root cause of it and the very start of it and beginning of it was in my childhood. I can't recall a specific event or time or memory from there, because in my mind, it was all the time. It was this all-encompassing, that was my upbringing, that was my childhood, that was my life, was this increase in volume. And the increase in volume meant threat, it meant harm, it meant I wasn't safe. And so my ears were hearing this and said, "No worries, we got you, we'll take care of this," and developed a cholesteatoma so that it would remove my ability to hear certain things at a particular volume. So you can call me crazy, you can call me cuckoo, but I know, and I know that that's what this is for. And here's test results to prove that. Not good test results, but, and I can hear, well enough. But the correlation and the connection that was made today in that hearing booth, and from my past, from my upbringing, from the ex-narcissist in my past. And it was funny because my ex-narcissistic husband used to tell me, "You need a hearing aid. You can't hear anything." And it's no wonder, right? Even 10 years later, here I am being referred to get a hearing aid. And this happens all the time with people. So I just wanted to share my story, my experience with you today. It's not for sympathy. I am not looking for sympathy, but just to share this and give you an opportunity to maybe make a connection that you haven't made between something that's physical and something that's emotional, and give you the opportunity to see where that is. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not saying that, but there is an emotional connection to these physical manifestations and representations of the problems and the issues that you have in your life today. So that's why I'm coming on here to share my story and my experience with this. Obviously, with hypnosis, with rapid transfacial therapy, not all, but a ton of the emotional stuff, connections I have worked through and healed from. They're still there. I can still see, okay, this and this, and make that connection, but it doesn't have the impact that it does today. Now I go, duh, it's because of this. And I'm no longer like surprised by it, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for a powerful way to make the connection on the emotional healing level, I would love to speak with you and connect with you and talk to you about how I do that with people. But in this space, wherever you're at, just wanted to share my story, my experience, and hope that it helps you along your journey.